without any tires on it for about 2 or 3 miles. I took part of one wheel and part of another. I took a hub of one wheel and the rim of another wheel and made one wheel out of two that would fit the one tire that I had, and that gave me 4 tires and no license plate. And I started driving that darn thing, and hell, I drove it all over the country around there, as long as I didn't get up in town where the law would find me. And I don't know, I drove that thing for almost a year with no license on it. One homemade wheel and tires from here, there, and yonder. But by gosh, it was transportation. And that was better than a lot of people had.
Yeah.
I could go where I wanted to go.
Is that on?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I went back to work for Fred.
Fred Sanders?
Yeah. Then he put me out there, some darn place off out there in a godforsaken country with a darn mill. And I carried old Will Taylor out there one time. And he spent a week
with us a long time out there.
Well, he spent a week out there with me, just him and me out there in a tent.
Oh, yeah, but Bill and him moved in with us, you know.
Yeah, that was in Harmon time.
Yeah.
That was before...
Ray was born.
Yeah, right.
So...
what time is it?
20 minutes to 10.
I wonder if Tammy's home.
She might be.
I know they wasn't going to bed.
Anyway, y'all did Harmontown.
Mm-hmm.
We'll call it in a minute. We'll call in a minute.
I wish Verlon got to sing.
Yeah, I wish I could have.
They live with us at part of them places, not all them places.
Dad, what was you doing immediately after I was born? You know, I mean, what kind of work was you doing?
Well, at the time you were born, I didn't even have a job. I finally had to go back to the guy that I had worked for before and go to work for him, which I really didn't want to, but that was still during the Depression, and I didn't have too much choice.
Who was that?
That was old Fred Sanders. And
the handle mill business?
In the handle mill business, I had to go back sawing for him. I had worked up from a dust doodler to a sawyer with him. He had made me a grade sawyer, which I still respect him for that. During World War II, there was only 152 grade handle sawyers in the United States. And with credit to Fred Sanders, I was one of the 152 grade sawyers in the whole United States. And that was the reason they didn't grab me and throw my butt on the front lines the first thing. I stayed out of the Army, which wasn't my choice. But I stayed out of the Army.
Did you go to Camp Shelby? Pardon me. Did you go to Camp Shelby and what was that story about when you went down to Camp Shelby to?
Oh, I went to Camp Shelby to Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and was examined for the Army, and I passed like a top. I thought there's everything wrong with me, but when I got down there, it was a different story. There wasn't a damn thing wrong with me.
What year was that then?
Gosh, I don't know. It was right after World War II started.
And 1941 or 42, something like that?
Somewhere along there. And they wasn't about to let me go in service. For I was too important here in the States to go over there and waste my time fooling around fighting in a damned army. For like I say, they were sawyers, but I was a grade sawyer. and there was only 152 of us in the whole United States.
Well, what was that about Company X? Said you got down there and said Company X, saw some guys with somebody saw some guys with Company X, COX on their.
Oh, that was a pretty good joke.
Well,
I had heard all my life before I went to Camp Shelby about Cox's Army.
yeah.
And I'd forgot all about that, so Chuck mentioned it just now.
I couldn't help mention that.
But we were lined up there trying to get to the damn mess hall. All of us starving to death. We'd been through all that baloney of being examined, this, that, and the other, and you know the Army's always late for everything. You got to hurry up and wait for everything, and then you're always late. And we were lined up out there in the hot boiling sun, waiting to get to the mess hall to get something to eat to keep them starving to death. And there was walkways coming from every direction. And here comes this line of soldiers. I guess they was already inducted, but they was in soldiers' uniforms, and we was all in civilian, you know. And they were wearing helmets, and on their helmets wrote with white chalk. It says COX. And an old boy right in front of me, he looked around at them. They were coming in at an angle from us. And he said, well, I tell you what. He said, I've heard of Cox's Army all my life, but I never figured I'd ever come face to face with them. But says, by God, there they are, coming right in here on our left. I looked around there, and there was that bunch of soldiers with COX on their helmets. And finally some guy told him, he said, well, hell, that's not Cox, that's Company X. And he said, well, shit, I thought that was Cox's Army coming right down on our left there. I come out, I had passed, I was 1A, and they told me I wouldn't be called under 21 days and it wouldn't be over 90 days. Well, 90 days rolled around, they hadn't called me. And I went to my foreman, and I told him, that damn Army had done goofed up. And he said, what are you talking about? I said, hell, I was supposed to have been called no later than yesterday. He said, well, go by the office when you get off from work and pick up that 2A class card. And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, well, hell, you had that a week after you got back from Camp Shelby. And I told him, I said, well, listen. I said, they wasn't supposed to issue a damn class card to anybody except me. He said, well, maybe there wasn't, but says they issued it to me. And he said, I've had it up there in the office since about a week after you left Camp Shelby. Well, I got mad, but it didn't do me any good. There I was, class 2 for 6 months. Well, just before that 6 months was up, I quit, which I knew they were going to report it to the local board, and they did. And just about the time I went to work on this other job in a machine shop, why, here comes a 1A class card. And I carried it in the office, showed it to my boss, and he said, well, hell, don't worry about that. And I said, I'm not worrying about it. I said, I'd just soon be in the Army as anywhere else. Before the day was gone, he come out with a form and that he had already filled out and had me to sign it. And about a week later, why, here come another 2A class card for 6 months. Before that one was up, why, World War II was ended, and I was off the hook. It wasn't that I was trying to get out of going to the Army. It was just that I was a little bit too damn old, I guess. So it ended up that I wasn't that I didn't get in time in the Army. I wished a lot of times I had, but I didn't. Set it out.
Great. Dad, you and Connie were living in Osceola, I believe it was, in 1952. And y'all kind of wanted to make a move somewhere. So what happened? How come y'all decided to move toward the west and toward the southwest?
Well, I was really unhappy with the job I had. I was working on a straight salary, and which meant 6 days a week, and until all hours of the night, especially on Saturday night.
At Hart's Auto Parts?
Hart's Auto Parts in Osceola, Arkansas.
Working for old Maurice?
Yeah. And
what's the name? Maurice what?
Hart's.
Maurice Hart.
And it's very seldom that I ever got to go home and eat supper and go to a movie or sit down and watch television or anything else. As soon as I ate supper, I had to go back and work till 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And especially on Saturday night, I couldn't plan nothing. That shop had me tied on a straight salary 6 days and nights a week. And of course, to hell, it didn't take much of that to give me all of it I wanted. And one day, on a morning, I got thinking about that. I was so darn unhappy that I thought, well, hell, I'd take just about anything to get away from this. And that was the only machine shop in Osceola that I could go to work at. And the only way I could change jobs was to change town. And I got thinking about an old stupid boy that I worked with in Memphis, old Willard Odom. I worked with him at Motor Parts on Madison in Memphis. And he had showed me two check stubs that he had brought from Houston, Texas. He'd been down there, I don't know, 3 or 4 times. And he showed me those two check stubs that was about, at least a third more money than I had ever made in Memphis. And I was making still less at Osceola. And I thought, well, what the heck am I hanging around here at Osceola for when I could make so much more money for the same work somewhere else? And I went home every day for lunch. And I went home that day for lunch, and I told my ex-wife, I said, if I knew somebody in Houston, Texas, I kept thinking about those two check stubs that Edie had showed me. And I told her, I said, if I knew somebody in Houston, Texas, I'd ride out there for some addresses of motor rebuilders, machine shops, and try to get a job in Houston, Texas, and get my butt out of here. And she said, well, I've got a cousin in Houston, and I've got his address. Well, I didn't say no more. I went on and worked that afternoon, and that night, she dug out his address, and I wrote it, and told him to send me some addresses of motor rebuilders in Houston. And about a week later, here comes a letter with 3 addresses of motor rebuilders. And I wrote all 3 of them. And he just picked the addresses at random out of the telephone directory. And it was a coincidence. The 3 that he sent me belonged to the same man. And I answered one of them. No, I answered all 3 of them. And here comes a letter right back. Just in a few days, he wanted me to come right on out to Houston to go to work. And I wrote him back that it was going to take a little time for me to get everything together and get ready to leave Osceola, that I couldn't just jump up in 2 minutes and take off out there. And I wrote him what the experience I'd had, and this, that, and the other, and what I could do and what I couldn't do, and all. And he wasn't satisfied with the letter I wrote him. He called me on the job about 2 days later, and I told him, I said, I can't talk to you here on the job. I said, tomorrow I'll call you from a pay phone and talk to you, which I did. And he told me he had a job waiting for me when I got there. So I just wound up my business in Osceola real quick and sold my darn car and a few other things, and caught the train and took off out there. I got in there on a Sunday, and I went up there and talked to the guy on Monday, and he wanted me to go to work right there. And I told him, I said, hell, I got to get out here and find me a place to live. And I said, I'll be in the morning, rain or shine. So I found me a furnished apartment, moved into it on Monday, and Tuesday I went on up there and punched the clock and went to work. And I worked for that crazy son of a gun for 6.5 years. And I got fed up with it, I thought. I quit. And I jumped around 2 or 3 different other jobs and wound up right back at the same place. When I called him, he said, well, says, you've got to work for a living, hadn't you? I told him, I said, hell yeah, that's what I've always done all my life. And he said, well, get your butt back up here and go to work. And he said, I got a good deal for you. He said, I'm going to put you on straight salary. And I said, no, hell you don't. I said, that's what I left in Osceola, Arkansas. And he said, well, what do you want? I said, I want to just come right back in and pick up where I left off. He said, all right, so I got that. That's what you'll do. So just get on back in here and go to work. So that's what I did. I wound up working for him for 6.5 years. And finally I walked out and quit him for good and worked on 2 or 3 other jobs, and then ended up at South Texas Parts and Machine and spent 17 years and 3 months there before I retired. And if a place hadn't got so damn screwed up and messed up, I'd have probably been there till now. But 3 months after I walked out of that place, it had a padlock on it. And I saw that coming, the reason I walked out of there after 17 years and 3 months. I knew it was fixing to fold up. So I walked out.
Well, Mama, when you first moved to Houston, now why did you move to Houston?
Do what?
Why did you move to Houston? What happened? Tell about the time you moved to Houston, 1955.
Well, James come out here and got a job out here. Verlon helped him get a job. Went to work with his dad here.
Yeah. Where was that?
International Motors. And he stayed out there with Verlon and them about 2 or 3 months till you finished school.
Yeah.
You was a senior, like 3 months being out of school. Well, you had to go on your senior trip then, right after school was out. And so James wrote and said, well, I'll send the money out there, and the money will be there time Ray gets back off his trip for y'all to come to Houston. He sent me $55, and it cost us $14 apiece to ride a bus to Houston. And so me and Ray come on out here, and your dad and Connie and James met us at the bus station. Ray called them. You called them from the bus station.
Where we leave from up there?
Left from Will. We were staying at Will with Via and Will.
Mark Tree. We caught the bus at Mark Tree.
Oh, yeah, they caught the bus at Mark Tree and rode into Memphis. Had to change in Memphis. Well, we left out of Memphis about 12 o'clock one night, headed for Houston. Well, the next evening at 7 o'clock, we landed in Houston. And you called your dad and them to come and get us, up to the bus station. Well, it wasn't over 30 minutes till they was up there to get us. Carried us on back to their place, and we eat supper. And then they carried us on over to the apartment. James had done rented us apartment and had the groceries in the refrigerator and had everything ready for us when we got there. So we went on to the apartment and went to bed. And James then got up the next morning, went on to work. His dad come by and picked him up. He didn't have no car then. Not very long after that then, he bought him a car. That old Buick, bought. You and him did for. And so we had a car then. They'd take a week about. Rufus would drive his 1 week, Verlon 1 week, and James 1 week. Of course, Ray done all the driving. James wasn't driving town hard. He'd had a car 3 or 4 months before we ever drove in town. He's scared to, he said. Too much traffic. So that's the way y'all worked the same place. Ray got a job there too. After, well, I reckon he's working there when him and Betty got married, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he taken this old Buick and went after Betty. They got married out there in Arkansas and come on back, stayed there with me and James for about 2 or 3 months. Out here about 2 weeks, she went to work at the bank. And they got him an apartment and moved out. So that's how come me to come out here, because James was out here and got us a place and all that.
What did you think about this place out here when you got out here?
Well, I didn't know hardly what to think. It's the biggest town I ever seen. Memphis is about the biggest town I ever seen while I was out in Arkansas, I guess. And I got here, and I liked it when I first come out here. I didn't have nothing against it when I first come out here. It took me a while to get used to the, the climate and all out here, but after that, I didn't bother me.
Well, Dad, what did you think about when you first come to Houston? What was your first reaction?
Well, I saw a lot of things that I liked, and really, tell you the truth about it, I didn't see a heck of a lot that I didn't like. One of the first things I saw that interested me was the fact that the working people here in Houston was the most independent people I thought I ever saw after living in Memphis for 6.5 years. They were independent. If the people that was working for didn't suit them, they'd say to hell with them. They'd walk down the street 2 or 3 blocks and go to work somewhere else. And instead of the employees being, scared of their jobs, the employers were scared that the employees would quit. And which was right the opposite to Memphis. In Memphis, you had to lick somebody's butt to get a job, and after you got a job, you had to keep licking butts to hold it. And here in Houston, it was a different situation. You could get a job any darn where, and the employer would lick your butt to keep you from quitting. And it took a while for me to get used to that. And another thing, the people dressed different here. Instead of disgracing the whole street that you lived on by walking out your front door in your work clothes, why, it wasn't unusual at all to see women driving a brand new Cadillac pull up in front of a grocery store and jump out in a pair of shorts, barefooted as hell, and walk in and buy their groceries and come out and get in that Cadillac and drive home. Where in Memphis, you had to wear dress clothes anytime you walked out your front door. And that was the 2 things that I noticed when I first come to Houston. The difference in Memphis and Houston. And it It made me feel like that this was the kind of place, by gosh, where I want to live, especially since I was a country boy.
Kind of a relaxed atmosphere, huh?
It was a relaxed atmosphere where people dressed for comfort and not for looks and prestige and all that kind of crap.
Well, Mama, did you find that it was a kind of a place that kind of housed you in, or did you like to go fishing, or what? You find lots of good fishing places down here, or what?
Yeah, I didn't go fishing too much when I first come out here, but we got to going a good bit after we'd been out here a while, you know. We used to go out to Magnolia Garden every Sunday, you know.
Well, tell about the time that y'all come back through Louisiana, and you, James, and y'all come back
yeah. Yeah, me and Billy and
past. What about that?
me and Billy and James and all the kids went up to Sulphur, Louisiana, to see one of James's friends that he used to work with, you know, at International, I believe, or somewhere out there. And he had a big boat, you know, and home up there and everything. No, he'd come down to get work done on his motors down there at Woodrow's, you know. That's where James got acquainted with him. He invited James to come up and go fishing with him. Well, we got up there and went to his house and all, and his wife said, said he's not here, said he's gone fishing. And then we'll be back till tomorrow sometime. And it was just a pouring down rain and a thundering and a lightning. And James said, well, I guess we just have to go on back. And I said, James, there's our little old motel around here. Let's get one and spend the night. I said, it's dangerous to be on this highway. So they looked around, found a little old place, and paid $4.50 a night, that little old place. Had 2 beds in it. And Terry was with us, you know, and so we made Terry a pallet on the floor. And James and Billy and Tammy slept on one bed. And me and J.C. slept on the other. And so we come on back home and never did get to see that man. Though. When he come down in the next week, said, I'm so sorry I was gone. Said, I wanted to see you and let you go fishing with me. No, but said he had to go off with somebody fishing. And so we'd come on back then and cross the ferry, that ferry over at Galveston. And we got across there. Well, just before we got ready to cross it, because that was on the other side of the ferry. Well, I seen a little old place out there. And so we just looked over and his office, a bunch of colored women just sitting thick as they could be, just pulling them fish out. And so we went and stopped there, and I bet you we caught a tub full of them old croakers while we were sitting there. And we carried them on home, and Billy the next day, she cooked them fish and had the office pile of fish cooked. Of course, I didn't eat them, but they all did. And then we got in come on then, crossed that ferry and come on home. Went to bed just pretty late, so it was after dark when we crossed the ferry. But that's a good place to fish.
That rollover patch.
Yeah, I don't know if it was any good now. Me and Ray's been back there since then. But we didn't catch me and Bill and Ray.
The time that they bite there and the time that they don't.
Me and Ray and
you can pull them out.
Bill went over there one day and gone over there a long time. We caught several of them, but we enjoyed it. We just sat and talked, you know, and bought us a hamburger.
You remember the time that we made that tape over there with Grandma Lenny?
Yeah.
Over at the house?
Yeah.
And you said it's a good place to fish. It's a good place to fish around here.
I said, nothing I've got against on this hot weather. But I said, you got good air conditioning, and that there's fine. So I forgot just how I told that over there, but that's what the hot weather bothered me pretty bad, but now I got used to it, you know. It bothers me too, but, you know, not like it did, because more convenient now, got more good air conditioning and everything.
And what did Terry used to say when it time come to go on the weekend to go to Galveston? What did he say?
Ray, let's go to Galveston today.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ray, we're going to Galveston today?
Yeah.
Yeah, and every weekend James would go somewhere. After him and Billy separated, me and him and Tammy lived together. He said, now, Mommy, let's go tonight. I'd like to get off this stuff. work, you know. He'd come home from work. And he'd say, well, now let's go get our grocery and get my check cashed now. And said, we're going to go somewhere tomorrow. Every weekend.
Where'd y'all go up there in Marble Falls?
We went to Marble Falls one time up close to San Antonio up there. And